Hey guys, it's your boy Krazy here. Nothing big planned, just kind of wanted to update you guys on some animated stuff I'm watching currently. And they both happen to have this sort of CGI, sort of 3D aesthetic to them. So I thought that would make a good topic for a video. So I happen to have watched these both within relatively the same amount of time, so I figured I'd just talk about it with you. First off on the chopping board is Netflix's Dragon Prince. Now, what can I say about this show? I think that as of this recording, the whole first season is out on Netflix. So, if you're interested, you know where to find it. Basically, the main reason why I decided to watch it was one of the writers of one of my favorite cartoons of all time, Avatar: The Last Airbender, is supposedly working on this, and having watched the series, I can definitely see sparkles of that. But here's basically the premise to Dragon Prince. In the sort of setting of this world, there are six main sources of magic: sky, star, ocean, earth, sun, moon, and dark magic, which is artificial or man made, and the source of much conflict within the series thus far. So it the setting has a very Lord of the Rings sort of feel to it, a very Middle Ages meat and magic sort of vibe, Dungeons and Dragons, that sort of thing. If you're interested in that sort of thing, I think you'll get a kick out of it. You also have sort of classes. You have assassins, mages, generals, soldiers, that sort of thing. Um, I'd say that it's not the most intricate system so far, but it's still going. So I'd say that if you're looking for a series that's going to grab you right out the bat, this doesn't appear to be yet. This looks like it's in it for the long haul. So, yeah. But what are my basic impressions of Dragon Prince thus far? I watched the first episode and it had some serious tonal clashes wherein they would talk about very serious things like assassinations, the fate of their countries, and then they're also like doing silly kid stuff like jumping up and down, playing pranks, that sort of stuff. And it took me a while for the show to really sort of grow on me. If I wasn't really sort of dedicated to try and watch this show, I don't think I would give it a second thought. So leave that as it may. That's sort of my basic premise on Dragon Prince. Watch it if you like magic and the Middle Ages and that sort of thing, and if the art style maybe you consider that interesting. But if it's not like your cup of tea, then hey, I don't blame you. Another series I want to talk about that also has this sort of CGI slash 3D aesthetic is Star Wars Resistance on the Disney Channel. And I first heard about it basically hearing for some channels sort of discussing whether or not it would be any good. And I looked up the trailer and it sort of looked like, the pod race in Star Wars 1, The Phantom Menace? It seemed like somebody said, hey, pod races are fun and are Star Warsy, I guess. So let's sort of make a show around that. That was sort of my first impression on the trailer, and I thought, oh, okay, this is going to be a kid show. But then I thought about it some more, and another trailer sort of came out. And it sort of established that this takes place during the sequel era trilogy, meaning the stuff that Disney has its hands in. Basically, your Force Awakens and your Last Jedi's and whatever the third movie is going to be. So this takes place roughly around that sort of era. And I found that to be kind of interesting because as of this point, the sort of material on that sort of era is still being fleshed out. So, in my opinion, we have sort of an opportunity to watch a non-Force user sort of perspective on the events that would basically be unfolding throughout the movies. Um, Now, having looked at the like to dislike ratio on that trailer, you might think that this series is just a dumpster fire, and um, it's not for everybody. But I've been around the woods once or twice, especially with these sort of 3D shows. I especially remember Disney's attempts at 3D in the early 2000s with Jet X, especially shows that come to mind are Stormhawks or Get Ed. By no means masterpieces these were, but I definitely found them to be entertaining. And I sort of have mixed feelings on 3D in general, but 3D seems to be pretty easy to make, and the action is pretty adequate. The character work tends to be a little juvenile, but it tends to lend itself to more long-term storytelling, in my opinion, at least from what I've seen. So what I suspect will happen with Star Wars Resistance is it's going to start off sort of happy and gung-ho, and our main characters just getting used to basically being sort of in this world of adventure. And then things will hit the fan. One thing especially prominent is that as of the series airing, the First Order and the Resistance have not yet quite gone to war. They're sort of in this Cold War phase. They haven't quite engaged each other yet. But having known the events of The Force Awakens, I suspect deep tragedy soon. But that's just me analyzing. It seems like a lot of people get the impression based on the first couple episodes, and maybe the first episode in general, that this will just be a sort of happy-go-lucky, non-eventful, not very interesting sort of kiddie show. But history has taught me from Clone Wars and my experiences with 3D shows and just my experiences with sort of these action shows in general. They start off slow and they start off sort of non-eventful, and then they really start to ramp up things as it goes on. And I think that the sort of main takeaway that you take away from the show is looking back on it. That's where you get sort of the praise of like, oh yeah, the Clone Wars was amazing, Avatar was amazing, Teen Titans was amazing. You really get those sort of ideas and those sort of like, wow, this series was really good after it has finished, and you sort of look back. So I don't think it's really fair to sort of judge it at this point. But based on what I've seen in my previous experiences with action shows, with 3D shows, with Star Wars shows, especially the Clone Wars, which some people thought had a rocky start, but I always believed in, I definitely have faith in this show. I'm sure it'll surprise a lot of people. Give it 2 or 3 years, and I suspect that it could be the next Clone Wars. So that's my quick thoughts on Dragon Prince and Star Wars Resistance. 2 sort of shows that are sort of having this sort of 3D sort of feel to them, and or sort of action based, slightly kiddish, but if you're an adult, I think you can have fun with them too. So those are my recommendations. I'll be seeing you later, Krazy Crew. Stay gold.